Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time. Thank you all for being here, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for having this important hearing this morning. I represent the big first district of Kansas, which is 60 primarily rural counties in western, central, and the eastern part of our state. We have hundreds of thousands of small businesses in our district. About 80% of the folks in our district work in small businesses. They really drive, as we know, the economy, and certainly the economy in my district. Mr. Splitter, first question's for you. And I've been to your farm. Great seeing you. Thank you for testifying this morning. Great to see your wife here as well. In your testimony, you talked about federal regulations and how they're trying to put family farms out of business, and that we should be working together to be the world's gold standard for agriculture here in this country. I couldn't agree more with you. Can you share more about how regulations and federal policies have negatively impacted your farming operation?
Yeah, on our operation, one thing that we always go back to is trust the science. Trust the experts. When we're sick at our house, we don't go to Google, we go to the doctor. Ethanol is a big deal for us. We live 6 miles from the local ethanol plants, and what better story can rural America tell than ethanol production? A green plant is producing fuel, and that green plant can be grown every year, again and again and again. Why are we limiting access to ethanol production? That just seems mind-boggling to me. And then trusting the science, EPA regulations on some herbicides, chemicals that we use. Atrazine, in particular, is the most studied chemical of all time, and it's been proved to be safe in the doses and in the volumes that have been set forth by the EPA. But yet, we routinely bring it up for review. So, just in our house, we trust the science.
I could not agree more. And you look at the history of the chemicals used in agriculture today. Let's trust the science, not the political science, but the real science. Clearly, these things are safe. They've been proven over decades, and we need to give some certainty to our ag producers. You mentioned in your testimony as well about Kansas State University's Office of Farm and Ranch Transition, which links their program, which links beginning farmers with retiring farmers in an effort to find and mentor the next generation of farmers. Can you speak more about the opportunities this program provides to young entrepreneurs and future farmers, and your experience interacting with that particular program?
Yeah, that program came into existence probably about 5 years ago, and we'd already had gone through 2 farm transitions. One after my father had passed away, so I was never able to be mentored by my father in a formal setting. Of course, all fathers mentored their children, but it was in 2015. We were on the verge of bankruptcy, and I went to a local farmer who was not considered a competition to me, and just asked for mentorship. I took a lot of swallowing to my pride. Didn't know really where else to turn, and so we went into a long-term relationship where we were able to take over his farm so him and his wife could retire. That was part of our farm growth. Wasn't really a strategy as much as a resource for us to just grow as human beings and an operation. But that office is doing exactly what we did. It's matching an elder generation or an older generation that doesn't maybe have an heir to come back to the operation, and instead of going through the community and asking for applications, it's kind of like a dating service for farmers, and it's worked. The success stories are just tremendous out of that office.
It's fantastic, and I think that's an example for not just agriculture, but all of our small businesses to be looking at how do we continue them on when there aren't heirs, or when the next generation doesn't necessarily, for whatever reason, doesn't make sense for them to carry it on. Last question would be for you, Ms. Cassaday. Can you talk to us a little about access to capital, and what barriers do you face when trying to access capital for your business?
There's several barriers. And, even just opening up a business, I've talked with the local bankers, and, we have very small banks in a small town. And I was told that to get an SBA-backed loan is pretty well impossible. You will just be drowned in paperwork, and it seems to be never ending. And so the businesses, if you want to open up a business, you have to get more creative. And I had to rely on relatives and other people to help back my business in order to make it come into existence.
I think that's great for this community to hear, Mr. Chairman. Here, we spend tens of billions of dollars on these SBA loan programs, yet the regulations and the ability to access them are so burdensome. You're being advised not even pursue them,
right?
Which is something that has been a focus of this committee, and something as members of Congress we all need to keep front and center. So but thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I yield back.